All right. So in chapter 971 of One Piece, we see the aftermath of Oden's rebellion. Oden and his 9 red scabbards have been sentenced to death by being boiled in oil. Oden makes a deal with Kaido, however, that anyone who survives longer than an hour being boiled will be allowed to walk free, to which Kaido agrees. So Oden jumps in the pot, and before the rest of his 9 red scabbards can jump in, he grabs a plank and holds it over his head and has them all jump on top, pretty much sacrificing himself to save their lives. So Oden is just in the pot, boiling, struggling for this whole hour. And while he's in there, a bystander makes a disrespectful comment about him being the foolish lord and just pretty much saying that he thought this would be instant, just wanting to be entertained. And Shinobu, who escaped it before, becomes enraged and starts to make a scene beating this guy, this bystander. And she reveals what actually happened in the palace with Kaido, that there were actually 100 or 1,000 hostages inside the palace who Kaido was going to kill if Oden didn't agree to submit and dance in the streets like that. And pretty much Orochi and Kaido had made a false promise that they would leave the island as soon as their work on the factories were complete. But that turned out to just be a huge lie. But we found out that Oden was really sacrificing his pride to save his subjects that whole time. So now that we know what really happened, what transpired in the palace, and now that we see Odin's sacrifice, his selfless sacrifice to save his men, I mean, what do we think about Oden as a character who's willing to make the sacrifice? We'll go to you, Connor. I mean, what did you think about that? Just that was epic.
Yeah, man. Oh man, that was tough. It was something. I mean, it really lays out just because for the entirety of this arc and since the zoo arc, I've just been wondering how iconic and how like great of a person was this Oden guy that his subjects would be willing to let their limbs get cut off and they would let their society almost be completely wiped out for him. And this whole time, especially with the dancing and him willingly leaving Wano with Roger, basically leaving it to its devices, I've been wondering where is the true loyalty, like what, because he's been doing so many things to push them away or make you think they wouldn't be that loyal. That one panel said it all. Like when you see him holding all of them and them looking down and realizing that he's got them on his back, I mean, that right there, we know he's going to die. We know that based on information from the previous chapters, we know that he dies saving them. I mean, it is the perfect moment for him to like write into this story for this is why the retainers and the 9, like the red scabbards, are so loyal. This is why they do anything for their lord, because he was that great of a person to be willing to it's just crazy. It's just insane.
It also makes me want to believe that none of the scabbards are the spy, unless it does come back around to, well, I was dealing with Kaido because I didn't want to see what happened to Oden happen to anyone else, like one of those arcs of like, and then they convince him, hey, Kaido's a liar anyways, blah blah blah. Like you get where I'm going with that whole how that plays out. But
well, go on.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, I think that when it comes to this whole thing with Oden, first, I did want to say, we only watched 4 minutes of this.
Yeah, no.
There's still a long way to go.
We have a lot of time left where this happens. Like, if that happened in the first 4 minutes. So I do, it kind of makes me question, we see 8 of the 9 scabbards, right? And we've always been questioning, where has this other one gone, or why haven't we heard it? Is there something that ties in later with him as well? Like, what happens later on with this. Like we have a long time to go. We'll probably have another full chapter of seeing what happens. There's something else that's coming with this for sure.
There was a theory, just touching back on the traitor thing, Devin. There was a theory that I honestly subscribing to more and more until these past few chapters that Carrot
from we should
Library of O'Hara. I don't know the guy's name, but the one who runs that.
Okay.
Fantastic website. But I saw it on there. But knowing that there was a traitor in the past and knowing that there's a traitor in the present, I have to assume that it is one of 9 red scabbards, because they are, or I mean Toki potentially, but they're the only like commonality. They're the only thing consistent through both storylines that were present at both. Now, I don't know if we have confirmation that the traitor is the same person or not. If it's different people, that would totally throw that off. But if it's the same person, I'm 100% sure it has to be one of the red scabbards or Toki.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm still leaning Denjiro just because we don't know that much about him, but really, I mean, they just like the 9 red scabbards. They just have such a strong bond, such a unique bond, even in this whole series. Like,
yeah,
I'm glad you brought up Zoe, Connor, because this really puts the events that played out there in a whole.
Yeah,
like it really puts it in context. Because what did we have? We had Raizo was hiding in Zoe, Nekomamushi and Inuyasha were hiding him, and they let all their citizens go through being tortured by Jack, and just they didn't speak at all. And what the moment that Kinemon and all them come say that they're looking for Raizo, oh yeah, he's right here.
Boom.
Yeah,
they just get down. Yeah,
and it's just like even the Straw Hats, who have such a strong bond, couldn't even fathom the idea that they endured that much torture.
Yeah,
for their comrade. But this chapter really puts that in perspective, because if their leader Oden was willing to sacrifice himself like that, just himself just be boiled in the oil and then hold him on top of his head like that. It just showed like the rest of them, they'll do anything for their comrades at this point. Seeing what their leader has done for them, they just got to struggle to pass it forward to their comrades any chance they get.
Literally, like, you understand why it's like they're saying we're going to lay down our lives for this mission.
Yeah. So Devin, I mean, does any group come close to having bonds like this that you see in the series? Like what else compares to the bond that the 9 red scabbards have with
besides the Philadelphia Eagles?
So the only thing that I would say to that is that's somewhat of an unfair question, right? Because we don't know. We've seen their bond. We've seen everything, not everything, but most of what they've been through, the biggest moments that have led up to their unity, like everything that their examples that Oden has set for them, everything that he's done, right? So we don't know the trials that Whitebeard went through with his crew. What made them so strong? We know what Luffy went through, and yeah, we can understand that their bond is strong. And I would argue that they haven't had enough time together, even though we've seen a lot, right? Like, they're going to keep progressing and keep having such a strong bond. But like, what about his Shanks's crew? How strong are they, right? Like, I think that's a question that, yes, from what we've seen, definitely the strongest bond that we know of. But if you really think about it, like Whitebeard's pirates with Marco, think about how Whitebeard's death affected Marco and all of them. Like, they were broken after he died at Marineford. Like, it's crazy to think about like what they could have went through that we just don't know. So
I guess rephrasing, like, knowing the parallels that we've already seen between Oden and Luffy and Oden's crew and Luffy's crew in Wano, what do you think we're going to see from Luffy in the present day? Because I mean, I'm assuming that he's probably going to have to surpass Oden in order to beat Kaido and like succeed where Kaido failed.
2
what
hours.
are we going to see with Luffy and his crew, and how their bond grows stronger in Wano?
So again, we've seen a lot of stuff that, I mean, if you put into context some stuff that Luffy has done, or Zoro, right? Like, one big thing I'm thinking about is when Zoro takes all of Luffy's pain because of all the stuff that Luffy has done for Zoro in the past. And think about some, like, iconic fights, right? Think about what Luffy went through against Rob Lucci, against Crocodile, like, all of those people, right? We've seen Luffy push himself to the brink. I mean, even the part at Fishman Island where he's stopping the ship, and it's tearing, like, it's literally tearing him apart while he's stopping that. And is he pulling it or like pushing it or whatever he's doing to stop that from coming down on them? Like,
he's trying to,
I think he's holding it, right? Like,
yeah.
But he's literally like, I mean, it's killing him. So he's gone through stuff as well that we've seen. We haven't seen something as intense as standing in that, a burning oil and saving your 9 comrades. No, we haven't seen that. But we've seen things that basically say Luffy is willing to go that far for the people he cares about, for sure.
Yeah,
that's a standing squat with what? How much would a full-grown samurai weigh?
Yeah, I mean, that's
so there's 9 of them.
the biggest thing for me.
Like 180, 200 pounds.
Even if you didn't have that weight on, think about how hot, not the oil itself is, think about how hot the bottom of that thing was that he's standing on.
Well, I guess the good thing is his feet,
right?
His feet would immediately melt and duck in place. So like he wouldn't have to worry about them flipping around.
Dude, they had 3 separate panels. There was like one panel for him jumping in the oil and like feeling it out. Another panel for just his pain, like the shock,
feeling it out.
And then a third separate panel just showing his feet making contact with the bottom of the cauldron.
Yeah.
Like,
now think about this.
Just reading that.
Here's a theory, right? So we don't know a lot about Conqueror's Haki, and we questioned if Oden had it. I would say it's definite that he did have it because of the fact that they had to question in the crowd, oh, what's going on with his skin, right? Think about the stuff that Oden, we've just alone seen Oden go through, right? We saw him get dragged by the ship, and we saw him stand in this oil now. 2 things that would tear the skin off a normal person. We also know that some people with Conqueror's Haki are very hard to damage, physically, like, damage, right? So there must be some connection with having Conqueror's Haki and being able to make it, for lack of a better term, like a coating around you that is somewhat like a protective armor. Because
that's a form of haki. Yeah, there's form of haki for that.
I think it's
so it doesn't have to be Conquerors because there's armor in Haki. And
Conquerors has nothing to do with like your physical like defense.
I understand that makes you. I think I would have to think about what I'm trying to say here. I think they're different. I'm trying to describe a difference between, like, I understand that the armament Haki is like physical differences in your body and you can harden your body, but almost somewhat of like a barrier even between that. Like, because a hard enough armament Haki can be someone else's armament Haki that isn't as trained. I think this is a step above that. Even someone with the best armament Haki wouldn't be able to crack that code of like Conqueror's armor or whatever it is.
I think you need to go make a theory video, put on a tinfoil hat, maybe.
I'll look into it. I'll look into some examples that I'm trying to see. But I'll come back to you, with that. We'll definitely.
It's an interesting.
This is definitely his willpower is playing a big part in this, and so from that sense, I can see I could see it being a Conqueror's Haki thing where, you can't just, it's not enough to just have like strong arm and Haki to protect yourself. You need to also have the strong will to be in there for an hour and protect your comrades. So
right.
So maybe it does take Conqueror's Haki. I don't know.
Like completely like no evidence to back that yet. I just, because of how when I was reading that panel, like kind of just thought to myself, this is different than what we've seen before. And I know that we were talking in previous episodes about, do we think if he has Conqueror's Haki? I definitely think it is confirmed that he is someone who's so powerful that he most likely has that.
I wanted to add too, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but we've had, since the time skip especially, we've had the 3 main types of Haki explained in depth a lot more. We've gotten a lot more information on, okay, what it looks like, or this is how it works. These are the variations of it. Conqueror's Haki is still the only one that we have. It still has that One Piece sense of mystery, where he's given us little tidbits of info, or like given us little new subtle bits of information through like drawings that are like, oh, okay, so that ties into it. But Conqueror's Hockey is still very, very unknown to us. And so, I mean, I think he's doing that on purpose. It's going to come out that Conqueror's Hockey plays a much larger role or has a much more powerful effect than just
Well,
what
and
we know.
I think here's what I think with that. I think you're correct in saying I almost look at it as scales, right? So observation hockey, I'm pretty sure the Katakuri fight, we've maxed out what we're going to see with observation hockey, right? Advancing your observation hockey to the maximum potential is going to get you into that future sight step. And then once you get there, there's not really much you can do after that.
You can only see further in the future.
I agree.
Yeah, you can just perfect that, but you can't
see the max of that. Yeah.
So then we move to armament hockey, right? We know that now you can not only harden yourself, but given that you're good enough with that, aka Zoro, he can start to use that with the swords and everything as well, and it transfers into an item, right?
And is
Luffy, yeah.
What is Luffy? Isn't that what Luffy is learning in prison
right now? It's even more than that, right? Because he's
it's like the next step of that.
Like, it's like super armament hockey.
Surroundings.
Yes, so that's what I'm saying, right? So we don't really know what that is. We can see that there's advancement in armament hockey that's past even what we've seen with Zoro. And
he's
then
still giving us new stuff.
Here's a cool parallel with Luffy and Shigaraki, right? Like Shigaraki's able to pass his quirk through, not just things he's touching directly, but things he's touching indirectly. And now Luffy's able to like transfer his hockey.
Bro, he can turn anything into rubber.
Well, I mean, that's his Devil Fruit Awakening, though. That's different too.
Yeah,
that's gonna be
way different.
That's a whole other thing, which like we haven't even gotten into.
He can just turn anything into a bounce house.
There have been like 3 separate times where I've been like, is Luffy about to awaken his Devil Fruit now? But like, it looks like they're just going on the hockey route for now.
But, so here's a crazy. We need a button. We need a tin hat theory button. That's what we need here on the show.
No, we need literal hats.
We do. We need like a little like. Because I got one big tin hat theory, right? When is Luffy gonna get his awakening? Luffy's gonna get his awakening.
Will he get his awakening?
Wait, when Eneru comes back and they fight him, and Eneru is so powerful that he says, "No, I don't need to go after Luffy anymore. I'm gonna go after his friends because I can't beat Luffy." And to stop Eneru, he's gonna awaken his power and turn it all to rubber and say, "Nope, you
turn his buddies into rubber." Not today.
That is tinfoil, like just
super way up there.
Tinfoil, that's lightning rod waiting to be struck by Eneru.
No, Dev coated.
That's like Midoriya's entire camping tent. My Hero. That's on the same level as that.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, we got a little off topic from the chapter there.
Yeah,
but I mean, I guess, like, what do we think is going to happen next then with the chapter? Because we know that Toki is taking some of them, sending some of them in the future, but not all of them. But like, how does it even get to that point? Because right now, it seems like he's made a deal with Kaido where all 9 of them are just going to survive and be let free to go.
Well,
but clearly that's not going to happen. We know what happens. And it looks like Kaido's going to have some treachery to play still. So how do you think it's going to play out with the multiple groups of scabbards going their separate ways? So Tom, what do you think?
Thanks, DJ. I'll let you know. I could easily see it being just another backstab by Kaido where he says, "Yeah, if you survive an hour, you can go back and I'll leave you alone." And then they do survive an hour, and Kaido's pouty about the fact that they survived through a loophole. So he burns down the castle, and they go back to the castle, and it's on fire, and they find Toki maybe. And she uses her devil fruit.
It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I didn't.
Series of events.
I hadn't thought about it much. I'll be honest. I mean, I just think it's going to be another betrayal. They're not going to get off just, "Oh, well, you know what? Oden did it, and if I am any man of my word," said Kaido.
No, I mean, I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but I just feel like, there's got to be the backstories we see like this. They usually have a way that they really change our perspective. on what is happening in the present day, right? With both the Nolan Montblanc arc and the Fisher Tiger arc, they ended with some piece of information that changed our whole perspective on what was going on in the present day. So that we didn't get that in this arc with Oden's fight versus Kaido. We saw exactly what we thought would happen. You know, like he wounded Kaido, but he got captured. So I think we're really going to see that game-changing piece of information with Toki. So
What do you
I know
think
it's a little.
that'll be?
I'm asking you guys.
I think something is going to happen with Orochi. I don't think that it's going to be so straightforward as like Kaido betraying him, maybe, or like betraying the deal. I think if anything, we might see, because overall, let's be honest, Kaido's a pirate, right? Kaido's going to look at this and say, I kind of respect what he did. You know, and for as bad as a person Kaido is, he might look at this and say, we had a deal. He lived up to it. I'm going to go, you know, get drunk and don't worry about you. But I don't think Orochi's going to be able to live it down. And so maybe something happens where, like, they say, hey, go to the tower. We're going to, you know, I'm going to let you release all those citizens. And then Orochi goes to burn the tower down and they're caught in it. And then she has to, you know, use that. And that's where all that, like, obviously there's rage towards Orochi for what he's done. But this whole time we've kind of seen him be like just this puppet for Kaido. And like, he's definitely done things that have crossed the line. But we've also just got that story now about how his family, like almost like the feel bad story of like, this is why I did everything. There has to be another step where it's like, okay, this dude's too far gone. He has to go as well.
I think we already have that. I think Orochi has. Orochi is Don Flamingo level
in One Piece.
He is Don Flamingo level, like evil in my opinion. I mean, dude,
I disagree.
You're telling me with this backstory now that we know, like the weapon plants, I mean,
again, I stand by that. If it wasn't,
he's a Joffrey. He's a spoiled brat. Like
exactly.
Yeah. And Ramsey was the real evil.
Kaido is the mastermind.
Joffrey was just a spoiled brat.
I'm not saying Orochi. You're misunderstanding. I'm not saying Orochi is the big bad villain at the top. He is being set up like Joffrey, exactly like Joffrey, where Joffrey was literally written as a character. I want to make a character that is so hated, people respect my ability to create a character this hateable. Orochi, and for me, Orochi is that character. I feel like he has done much more with Orochi in such a short amount of time that we've known him, because Don Flamingo was over a long period of time before we even started his main.
It's also Don Flamingo.
Details. and so, I mean, in just the time we've seen and been introduced to Orochi, I feel like he's already like demonized him more than almost any other character in the series. Not that he is a like top of the pyramid villain, just in terms of the like our ability as a reader to not like him.
Well, I guess let's leave that to the viewers. Let us know what you guys think about Orochi in the comments down below. Let us know what you think is going to happen with Toki, what the game-changing thing might be for this whole backstory arc. And if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. And you can follow us at our social media, Instagram and Twitter at Off The Stoop. And we'll see you next week.
Have a good one.